Yeah, obviously it's been a difficult one. Started off in a bad foot. Obviously nothing to do with the team itself, but me being in the hospital. It's not a season. Actually, it was the worst start of the season I ever had in my life. But it's also part of racing. I think generally I'm very happy how the team operates, the mechanics, the engineers, team principals, like everybody involved. The motivation there is very high, even though we didn't really have a car that was very competitive. But it's definitely a pleasure to be part of such an amazing bunch of people. But nevertheless, other options comes around, and I went to the team because I had 3 amazing years in DTM with them, and still it was an amazing year, but just the result was out. But yeah, it's a shame. Well, obviously I knew the team before, and nothing much has changed when I left 4 or 5 years ago in DTM times. There were similar people, similar engineers. I had my same performance engineer which I had in DTM, so it's not like I learned a lot because it was just very familiar and just feeling like coming home to my second family, and that was definitely the case. So, but on pure results-wise, it's obviously been difficult, and you learn way more of having a difficult season than having a good season. And for sure, hopefully, for next years, it will help me moving forward. Yeah, not ideal if you start last with a lot of spray. So it was definitely a bit of surviving. Last thing you want is someone spinning in front of you don't see him. So I was a bit cautious the first couple of laps, and then you kind of like lose the train. But my pace was fine. It was just difficult to overtake people. And I was somehow very short on energy, which didn't help me in the race. But yeah, it's one of those races where nothing really goes your way. Actually, the whole weekend I've been struggling a lot, but I can't explain why. Not really. I mean, I think in a pure wet, there were only like 5-6 corners which were wet. And the rest is inside. So it was not really to our advantage because we were still losing time in the first sector compared to the others. But I felt pretty strong in the wet part, in the outside, the 2 chicanes compared to the others. But you just can't overtake this, so I couldn't show my pace.
Yeah, I think the first 10 laps were tough. I think we maybe doing something a bit different with the pressures compared to other people, but after a little while, halfway through the race or so, the grip really started to come to me, and we did have good pace. And I do think if it was a track that was slightly more encouraging for, or easier to overtake, I do think I could have gone forward quite a fair bit today. So that's good for next year. We know that our pace is good in the wet, the car seems to work nicely, but I kind of not surprised because our 1 lap pace and the car's rotation and mechanically how it has felt all year has been very good. So I'm not surprised that we're quite good in the rain. Yes, yeah, I do. I mean, for me as a driver, I think I've always been very strong in the rain, even back to my karting days. Like, us Brits, we grow up in it, so there's a lot of time to practice that when you're in karting, mixed conditions and stuff, and I enjoy it because it makes it more about the driver, less about the car. Like I did just say the car was good, which it was, but it is a lot about the driving in the rain, of course. Quite a unique challenge, half being dry, half being wet, but I think I couldn't have done much more today, really. So yeah, pretty happy to score some points and obviously overtake Mahindra. That's very big for the team. I'm very happy to be able to give them that boost at the end of a pretty challenging year. Better than I was expecting, honestly. I think a lot of drivers, it's fair to say in the dry we prefer a tyre that would be a bit softer, a bit quicker. But in the wet, I was honestly expecting it to be harder today, and they performed pretty well. So yeah. I think overall my performance has been good this year. I think I've maximised a lot of the time what we could, and same with the guys trackside. We've pretty much got the best out of the package we have, which is very positive. I think obviously we can always improve, but I think next year is still going to be tough. We're going to have more or less the same problems, so it's just about managing expectations and still being there to fight for those points when they're available. Yeah, I think I'm a bit Marmite. People love me or hate me. I'm either getting evils or I'm getting people come up to me and ask for photos. So, but yeah, overall I enjoy it. I'll keep being me because that's just how I am. But yeah, it's always special to have a race at home. Yeah, the reception obviously for Jake and also for me has been great, so I appreciate everyone's support.
Yes, I mean, how Formula E, now speaking positively, how Formula E delivered the finale was, I think everyone is impressed. It only keeps getting better and better. I think this is definitely the flagship race, and it's a model which should be also used for. I know it's much harder to do that on every single race across the globe, but it's definitely a reference for all the others. Every year I come here, I'm more and more impressed with the shows, with the organization, with everything. It's been truly outstanding. Yeah, there's been ups and downs. So I want to really work on my qualifying pace for next year. That was something I always had in the past, and this year is not exactly there. I think I'll find it on the preseason, but I just really got to keep working. I don't want to have a season again where I don't think my quality is quite up there. So that's my main focus. On the races, we struggle with efficiency compared to other powertrains. So, I mean, I think I've been doing quite okay in the races, and whenever there's an opportunity, that type of the races that rewards the opportunistic, I think I've been putting my car in the right places and gaining a lot of positions, like yesterday or like in Rome. But if I qualify better and I start the race more in front, I think I could do even better. And it's also always fun to go into the duels and everything. So it's something I'll work for next year. I wish I could give more optimistic projections, but it's not a homologation year. There's only so much you can do. So more or less the teams will stay more or less the same. You cannot change that much your car between this season and the next. It was, I think this race, so I was interviewed before the race, and the reporter said, well, if yesterday was hectic, imagine today, it will be even worse. And I told him, you know what, I think there'll be no incidents. Because even if the conditions are horrible, I know that there's 22 drivers on this grid, with every single one of them is so good, you will not make mistakes. So don't expect safety cars coming from driver mistakes. There will be no driver mistakes. And there will be no overtaking because the race won't allow overtaking. And it happened exactly like that. Like, nobody put a wheel wrong, and the conditions were dreadful, but nobody made a mistake. And I made a few passes in the beginning when, well, I think we had a really good car and I made a few passes, but after the race stabilized, it was impossible to make a move with the spray, and so I think it was a bit more boring than yesterday, but yeah, that's how it is.
Yes, we are. Yeah, obviously an amazing day for the team. Winning with Nick, winning the championship, got the point from 6. In the end, it's an amazing year, an amazing day, so we'll try to celebrate it as much as we can, and try to come back strong next year. I guess, to be a customer and to win the championship first year with the Jaguar powertrain, obviously they've given us an amazing car, and to be able to beat them and win the championship is something special, especially for the team. They worked so hard, we had a few big incidents, and they really worked hard and did an amazing job, so I'm really happy. Yeah, they were really, really hard, it was really wet, visibility was hard, and obviously I was fighting Sam for the team championship, and I managed to pass him, but he was coming back strong, so that was not easy, but in the end, obviously we made it in front of him, and Nick made it in front of Mitch, so it was enough for the team championship then. Yeah, it's obviously a big step in the car. The cars are much faster on the straight. They are kind of different to drive, so I think it's been a challenging year, and it's amazing that we've been up there fighting with the big guys. I had a tough season last year. This year, obviously with the podium yesterday, and good points was an amazing feeling.
It was not a great race. The conditions were extremely difficult. It was a matter of pretty much staying on track. The car was sliding all over the place. We could not really see we could not see a lot because with the spray of the cars it's quite difficult. I think I did one overtake like during the entire race. So pretty boring, but in the end I'm happy to have finished this race. Yeah, so I enjoyed myself like during the course of the weekend, and so the off season will be great, in order to. Fortunately for me personally, it was a disappointing season with Maserati MSG Racing. We were coming from 2 very good years where I finished like second and third in the championship, and this year it seemed to be extremely difficult for me to perform for many reasons. One of them being that there were a lot of like changes inside the team. We had also like a new partner, and we didn't really find the right direction to go at the beginning. In the second part of the season, when things started to be better, we were quite unlucky in several occasions. I think that the second part of the season is reflecting probably more the level of performance that we could have had during the year, and it will be important to try to improve the car and try to improve the process like through the off season.
It was an up and down season. I think we started on a high, where you could see how good the team was really operating from the get-go, with a very good first or second weekend in Diriyah, where we finished on the podium, Jake had a pole position, and then basically it kicked off halfway through the season that we were just not always operating perfectly, and unfortunately not scoring enough points towards the end of the season. I think we would have deserved much more, but unluckily we didn't. So I think it's not the true picture we saw end of the season, but I think many drivers and team can say that. Definitely. I mean, I think Formula E is one of the toughest championships out there for drivers, for teams, for everybody involved. So it's always a big challenge coming here, trying to execute on a highest level and getting everything together. It can be frustrating at times, but still, I enjoy racing. Formula E is a very different kind of racing. But I still enjoy working with professionals and with racing against the best racing drivers in the world. So that's still a bit joy.